Welcome to the very first episode of Euphoric, a podcast exploring gender euphoria. On this episode, our special guest is Nia, who is genderfluid, and in their interview, they talk about the pressure to fit into androgyny, the influence of using gendered terms and pronouns, and genderfluid representation in the media. So if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned. Here is the full interview. Hello and welcome to Euphoric, the podcast discussing gender euphoria and what it means to different people. Today we have Nia to talk about their experience. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
It's good to have you here. So could you start by just explaining what gender euphoria is?
Gender euphoria. Gender euphoria is, well, as said in the name, it's just the feeling of euphoria and a lot of happiness when you feel like you're able to present in the gender that you identify as. It could be by, maybe modifying a bit of your actions or the way you dress. It's just doing something that validates yourself and secures yourself in your identity.
Great, thank you. And do you remember the first time you experienced gender euphoria?
Yes, it was earlier this year when I binded for the first time. It was with a sports bra, and once that was done, I put on a baggy t-shirt and, some sweats. Very loose-fitting clothes, very standard clothes. And I looked in the mirror and I felt very secure in my identity. I was like, dang, I look more like me. I like how I look. And it just made me feel really happy. And it was a very exciting moment as well. I was just, looking at myself for a good 10 minutes, trying to see, damn, wow, that's so cool. I look so cool. You wouldn't be able... I just felt more secure in my identity as a non-binary person.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what kind of clothes make you feel gender euphoria, would you say?
Gender euphoria, I guess more of, the clothes that make me feel very connected to the gender that I present with. They're usually baggy clothes, because a lot of times just wearing, baggy shirts and sweats or baggy pants really, just hide your silhouette, and they're more comfortable as well, and they don't have much of a box or a label to them a lot of the times, so that works really well for me, and it's comfortable, and it's stylish as well, so that works really well. I think recently for Halloween I dressed as Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. It's very much the gender envy of a lot of people, so when I did that as well, I felt a lot of gender euphoria. I was like, well, I felt really connected to my gender, and it just made me feel secure and validated, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is validation from yourself and feeling secure in your identity, not from other people. Well, if that would help, yes, but if you can feel it on your own and you're able to validate and secure yourself and make you feel good about yourself, about your identity and the way you present yourself, that's all you need.
Cool. So are there any other particular moments that you remember of feeling gender euphoria?
Yes. Earlier this year, both of my parents, they were a little sick. So as the oldest of the house, I was doing a lot of work. I was helping around a lot and doing things that my parents would usually do. So at that time, and I also had started to dress a bit more androgynous. I was just wearing a lot more baggy clothes. I was binding a bit often. And my mom, she came up to me. She was combing my hair and braiding it, and she was telling me that how it's like having another son, and I'm the second son of the house. And it was a very emotional moment for me, because as someone who's not out but still, doing things and presenting myself in a way that made me feel comfortable, and having that validated by my mom was such a wonderful feeling. It was a very important moment for me, and in my journey of self-discovery as a gender-fluid person. So I think it's probably my favorite memory in this process.
That's great. Do you feel like certain gendered terms can make you feel really good?
Yes. When I'm non-binary, I do prefer more gender-neutral terms or masculine terms. As someone who has been femme-presenting the entire life, it just seems like it's a good change, and it's, again, added validation in who you are and your identity. So gender terms would be like, oh, you're like, you're looking snazzy, Your Highness. Man, you're doing great today. Those kind of things, they just make me feel good. They hit a bit different as well.
Would you say pronouns as well are very helpful? Would you say it's important to...
Yes, pronouns are extremely important. It's, as someone who, is gender fluid, I do have days where I only prefer certain pronouns, and I would only feel better I would only feel okay if you would use those. And there are other days where I don't really have a preference. You can go with whatever you feel like it. Pronouns are a very big deal in instilling and enforcing my identity, not in just myself, but the people I am around with. So yeah, pronouns are important. Respect other people's pronouns. It's, very important to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think as a gender fluid person there's a pressure to fit into androgyny?
Yes. I think because of the media that we're exposed to, not just on TV and like shows and also social media, being androgynous, which is a lot closer to masculine presenting, is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of toxicity in the community or from other communities to us to look a certain way, so then we can get the respect that we need to just have people use the right pronouns for us. But if we don't, present in an androgynous way, they'll be like, oh, you look like a girl, you have long hair, you're wearing like feminine clothing, then why would we use they, them, or he, him pronouns for you? Because of the way you look. And it should be, I think it should be enforced that the way you present yourself is what makes you most comfortable, and that shouldn't have much ties to your identity and how you present yourself. And that gender and sex and like sexuality aren't connected things. You could be non-binary but still use he, him pronouns or she, her pronouns, but still fall under non-binary, which is not in the gender spectrum but outside of it.
Yeah, it defeats the point, doesn't it, really?
It does.
When you're saying there's only one way to be non-binary or gender fluid, that's the opposite of what it means.
Yeah, it's very much, I think there's more pressure on those who are femme presenting or AFAB, like assigned female at birth. So if it's a lot more pressure for us to look a certain way and act a certain way so that we can even be given the basic respect of having our pronouns used right.
Yeah. So you said about gender fluid rep in media. I know when I've seen it, it's been in fiction anyway. It's mostly aliens and shapeshifters and robots and things. So do you think that's a useful way of looking at it, or do you think that's actually quite harmful?
I think it can go both ways. First of all, yay, representation. We've got gender fluid characters. But again, it could be harmful because it's still, you're making special characters look like that. And like, if they're not someone who's just casually mentioned, like, oh, they're gender fluid, they're doing so and so. The only book that I've read that had like pretty decent, I guess, gender fluid representation was from Magnus Chase by Rick Riordan, the series. They have one of the main characters is a gender fluid and non-binary person. So that was something that I felt more connected to when I read it, and that was pretty decent representation, I guess. It wouldn't be the best because there isn't a correct way to do it because everyone's experiences are different, but the basics were covered in that.
Yeah, what would you say needs to be done to kind of make the representation better?
Normalize it. The way that we're putting so much pressure on normalizing queer parents, same-sex parents, and same-sex marriage and stuff like that in TV shows and other forms of media, bringing trans people and gender fluid, non-binary people into the same narrative, not making it a big deal and just making it, they exist, we exist, there's nothing abnormal, there's nothing different about it as just other than the way we present ourselves. So it's just, if we do it in a way that doesn't seem like a big deal and be like, oh yeah, they're non-binary, they're doing their thing, and not, and move on from it, because if there's too much like pressure and there's too much emphasis on it, it still creates that division of us and them, and that's what we should be aiming to break.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for listening. This has been Euphoric. You can follow us on euphoric.podcast on Instagram for updates, and join us next time where we'll be interviewing another special guest. Thank you.